back. Episode 7 of Coffee with the Coaches. I'm Coach Brad Dunn.
I'm John Duncan.
And we've got
Peter Robinson.
jumping in to introduce himself. A great guest today. Peter Robinson, as he said, he's a great guy that we've known for a while. John, a little more than I have, but was one of our swimmers when we coached together at Southwestern, and is now a volunteer assistant coach at UVA in Charlottesville, Virginia. Peter, how are you doing today?
I'm doing lovely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I noticed you got a mug that you brought with you. What you was sipping on over there?
This is my trusty Fire Engine Red Starbucks mug with some Starbucks Siren Blend.
Ooh,
my reusable
nice.
Nice.
I haven't had that before.
John, what you got?
Good old Lamppost Coffee again. Trying to support local.
Nice. I was
Dark one.
I'm still making my Nespresso pods here, but I got a nice Malozio Nespresso.
Nice.
Very, very thick,
like that.
very Italian. So, yeah, you like that? But very excited to have Peter on today because he has been somebody that we've constantly kind of been talking to, like to joke around with, team captain, leader, and was the lone senior on that team that won a conference title a couple years ago in the SCAC. So a lot of exciting things in Peter's career. But Peter, why don't you go ahead and start us off? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Long story short, born and raised Southern California. I swam kind of with a lot of big fish. I grew up right next to Mission Viejo, but I swam for a little club team. Shout out Todd Conrad. And then I decided to go to college at Southwestern University, little school you may have heard of. I was recruited. Well, my teammate was recruited by John, and I happened to send him an email saying, "Hey, can I come on a recruiting trip?" And I was really happy with my decision, and I stayed at Southwestern for 4 years. 4 of the greatest years of my life. Got a great education. As Brad alluded to, great, really fruitful swimming career under John and Brad and Kelly and Sarah. Every assistant that John had, I really enjoyed. And now I'm at University of Virginia as a volunteer assistant, doing some things out there, coaching for Charlottesville Gators, and just trying to learn as much as I can.
Well, Peter, I'm so glad you're on our show, and watching you over the past 4 years at Southwestern, and even the year in the recruiting process, and then you going into an awesome program, great school at University of Virginia. Can you tell me just kind of the how was that transition from Division III to Division I? Maybe like kind of your eyes, stepping on campus the first week or maybe the first month of practice. Kind of what was your thoughts there? And the biggest differences you've seen?
I mean, generally speaking, the resources they have available to them are definitely a lot more. So it kind of makes you appreciate the things you do have in Division III and all the hard work the coaches do, especially considering just the personnel resources that the athletic department has at UVA and at the other 5 schools. But in terms of training, these kids they're really serious about what they're doing, and they know what they're there for, and the coaching staff is really willing to guide them along that path, and that's just a really exciting thing to watch day in and day out. Those kids come in on deck meaning business every single day.
It's good to see that, and working with fantastic athletes, and very proud of you, man. It's great.
Thank you. And especially, it's pretty cool to see, going from my 4 years and then switching to the other side. That transition is definitely, I would say, a difficult one, because you kind of have to detach yourself from the athlete you were and kind of try and embrace and figure out who the coach version of you is. And I'm definitely still in the process of that, but it's been a very interesting experience, and I'm glad that I both have, a good starting point from you guys and a good place to continue to grow at UVA.
I'm glad you brought that up about, trying to find your coaching voice, trying to find, the difference between just being yourself and being your friend, but also then being the coach, but making sure that you never change who you are, right? It's a very interesting balance. You don't want to just kind of transform into somebody that just sounds disingenuous or anything like that. When you get into those coaching moments and you're talking to your athletes, what do you find to be kind of your background. I know one of the things that, for me, I think a lot about what would my coach do in this situation? What would John do in this situation? What would Charlie, a coach I've worked for? I think about like the head coaches that I've worked with or swam for. Where do you kind of make your decisions, and where do you, get your coaching style from?
Yeah, definitely. The coaches you have during your swimming career are certainly a big influence in who the coach you want to be and you want to become. So I guess the challenge is drawing the line between where that influence starts and ends, and where your own coaching style and your own decisions start. And so that's kind of been the interesting challenge is, well, it's really important to think what would Brad do or what would John do, and then transfer that to, okay, now this is a different situation with, specific context, and how can that influence help? And ultimately, what do I as a coach want to do moving forward with those influences?
That's awesome, Peter. So my next question, if I wanted to, and I'm not going to, but say I graduated from college and I'm looking to get into to the college coaching world, how would I go about that? How did you get into University of Virginia? And it's kind of maybe a two-part question here. What is your, I guess, daily routine as a volunteer assistant?
Yeah, so going from college swimming to college coaching, swimswam.com/jobs is your biggest resource for sure. But really just email people. Even if you think you may or may not be interested, email people. I think you'll be surprised at how many people will email back and, be willing to talk to you about opportunities, and use the resources you have available to you. A lot of what, places I looked at would not have been possible. Those connections not possible without John, Brad, Sarah, all my coaches from back in California. So the swimming world is a lot smaller than you think, and use the resources you have around you. And as for the volunteering schedule, while it is brutal, it's definitely rewarding. And, I'm not trying to complain. It's just the path that, I decided to choose. But, you're up at 5 on deck at 5:45. Practices usually go from 6 to 8. And then all the coaches will just disappear to work out for a little bit. So we'll work out, 8 to 9, go back, eat some breakfast, back into the office by like 10:30, 11. And then I'm taking master's classes online through UT Austin. So kind of that middle chunk of the day is my time to do homework and, whatever other activities and duties I have as a volunteer for UVA. And then we'll hit practice usually like 3:30 to 5:30. And then Dallas, the other volunteer who I live with, will go home, eat a quick dinner, and then it's off to Gators practice from 6:30 to 8:30. So we'll get back around a little before 9, and just rinse and repeat. So definitely a tough schedule, but the people that you work with and the connections you make, the kids you get to work with, definitely make that time investment worth it.
Thank you, Peter. That's great.
He's 1 year out of school and he's already calling them kids. What growth?
Yeah.
What growth we've had.
There is a UVA swimmer who is older than me. She graduated, but that was a running joke on the team that I'd be running a practice and she'd be like, "I'm older than you. I shouldn't have to listen to you." Jokingly.
No, John listened to me and he's got me by a couple of years, so maybe that's just the way it'll work.
Just a few, Brad.
Just a couple, but. Yeah, Peter, kind of shifting gears now back to your swimming career. You had a lot of success, team success with the SCAC championship that worked 4 years to get, and individual success, individual champion, and part of records and things. But you're looking at the total package for 4 years at Southwestern. What are you most proud of?
Definitely most proud of the combination of education and athletic experience that I received. My parents were really helpful in the decision process, basically saying, look, if you blow out your shoulder for some reason, what are you at school for? If your athletic experience goes out the window for some unforeseen reason, are you still going to want to be there, and are you still going to get something from it? And so I'm really happy that the chair of the kinesis department, Dr. Scott McLean, runs an amazing program, and I find myself using things from that education almost every day in my career. So I'm very grateful for that educational experience and the ability to go so smoothly with that athletic experience as well.
So Peter, how are you holding up during this time? And I guess, are you still, for the viewers here, are you still in Virginia? Are you back home? And then I guess, what are your responsibilities? Do they have you doing some stuff as far as recruiting? And can you talk about that? And I guess, how are you holding up?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, this is challenging for everyone. I have a roof over my head. I have, food to eat every day, so I can't complain too much. But I'm back in Texas for financial reasons, just because Charlottesville, I don't have a job up there currently. So I'm living with my girlfriend and my parents, which has been great. Spend some family time that, the quantity and quality of which we're not going to probably see again ever in our lives. So just take it as it is, try and stay sane. But as for duties, coaching duties, with UVA, we specifically are not allowed to participate in recruiting just because of NCAA rules. We exceed the coaching staff limits. And so outside of just kind of maintaining relationships with swimmers and checking in on them and offering any help we can, especially I'm doing online classes. And so some of the UVA swimmers are facing challenges. And so kind of talking about maybe, ways to get around that. But yeah, outside of just talking to kids and trying to make myself better as a coach through reading and learning, not too much, just a lot of cooking, a lot of walks, and trying to stay sane.
That's good.
And we've been talking a lot about stuff that our program's doing here at Lynchburg, but with personal growth while we are at home and social distancing, quarantining, all of those things. And it's getting a little more specific though, Peter, where do you want to be better as a coach? What do you see, like, with your skill set? What do you see as the area that you most want to get better, and what are some things that you're doing to improve that way?
Certainly. So and I guess this is the tricky part, is you can't particularly practice this given our current conditions, but as I've found, and as Andrew at UVA has kind of helped me with over the past year, is those little interactions you have with kids before and after practice, and even during sometimes, but those are very important, and kind of that is your gauge for how training is going and the direction you kind of need to take, So, how was practice? How are you feeling before practice? And the tricky part is there are an infinite number of responses that those kids can give. And you kind of need to have a baseline for how those kids respond normally and anticipating deviation in that. So you can kind of anticipate, how a kid will perform that day. And even after practice, how was practice? How did you feel about that? Do you feel like, based on their response, do you feel like they feel that they're making progress? And so, practicing how to anticipate responses, and when the curveball is thrown, how do you respond? Do you stay calm and collected? Do you kind of flounder? I'm sure as coaches we've all kind of had those instances where a kid just throws a complete curveball and you're just knocked back on your feet. But
kind of like going up now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's probably the area I need to improve on most, and just because it's very difficult and it's very unpredictable, interacting with those kids. But again, those interactions are why we coach. So,
And John, Peter was always a pretty predictable swimmer, right?
I'd like to.
Yeah, sure.
My last 2 years. The first 2 years we're not gonna talk about.
It was definitely, Peter, you definitely grew as an individual and a swimmer over your 4 years. And so we've had a few bumps in the road your first year, second year, and then all of a sudden it just opened up your junior and senior year. So, but Peter, they were coming towards the end here, and very, just honored you swimming for Southwestern and our program, and going out the way you did your senior year. Basically you were the foundation of the program 2 years ago, and what we accomplished was amazing, and under your leadership, your guidance as a student athlete. So, last question we have for you, if a Hollywood movie character would describe Peter Robinson, who would that be?
Oh, geez. So if Hollywood would describe,
well, I guess, like, if you could pick a movie character. Is that the question, Brad? Yeah.
You told us beforehand that you had this figured out already, but now you're on the spot.
Yeah. So, and before I say this, I'd make no claims that I am anywhere close to the kind of coach that Herb Brooks was, but from the movie Miracle, my kids at Virginia Gators, they despise when I do this, but I do it fairly regularly because a lot of times when my main sets will have a defense component, on the last one of the very last round, I'll say, go for it, go all out, and they'll do a great job, they'll kill it, and then I'll give them maybe like a 50 or 100 easy, depending, and I'll just hold them with fingers. And I'll go, no! And I'll say, one more, and you got to go faster. So that scene where they're in the hockey rink after they just blew out an exhibition match, and Herb just keeps going, another. Sometimes I feel like that with those club kids. But again, not nearly as much of a coach as that man was, but I think that that scene kind of speaks to me in a sense.
Yeah, here I thought you were going to go with like Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. Oh, that's great. Well, yeah, Peter, we are keeping these short, and we'd love to have you on again. I'm sure. It's for those of you who are watching, we talk. Three of us talk pretty often, and both John and I, like I said, very proud of your first steps, your coaching career, and look forward to big things from you. But Peter, you get the last word before we sign off. Anything else that you'd like to add before we go?
Outside of just, I'm very grateful for the platform you guys have given me in my life and my career, and I very much appreciate you guys having me on to chat for a little bit.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Peter. Thank everybody here for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you on Thursday. Bye, guys.